Smoke covered the battlefield like a thick fog. Fires burned in every corner of the ruined outpost. Ash and metal filled the air. Bodies, human and alien, lay still across the broken stone. In the middle of all this, a human soldier pushed himself off the ground. His arm was bleeding, and one eye was nearly swollen shut, but he was still breathing. He didn't know how he had survived the blast. He just knew he had to keep moving. His name was Kale. He wasn't the strongest or the fastest, but he didn't stop. That's why he was still alive. He limped across the wreckage, stepping over debris and fallen machines. His suit was half burned and his communicator was dead. He was alone, or so he thought. Then he heard it, a sound like soft crying. Faint, almost lost in the noise of distant explosions. He stopped. His instincts told him to ignore it, to keep moving, to get out. But his heart pulled him toward the sound. He followed it, past a broken wall and into the ruins of what looked like a throne chamber. Blood was smeared across the stones and strange symbols glowed on the floor, fading in and out like dying stars. In the center of the room, under a beam of dim light, was a figure lying still. She was not human. She looked like something from an old Earth myth. Her skin was pale with a faint golden glow. She had long, tangled hair the color of wildfire and fox-like ears on her head. Her tail, thick and soft, was stained with blood. Her breathing was weak and deep cuts ran across her side. She was trying to stay conscious, but her body was failing. Kale froze. She was one of them, an alien. A species his side had been fighting just hours ago. He could walk away. No one would know. She was the enemy. But something in her eyes stopped him. Even in pain, even half-conscious, her gaze wasn't hateful. It was full of fear, but also something else. Something desperate. Like she didn't want to die alone. Kyle dropped to his knees beside her. He pressed his hand to her wound and felt the warmth of her blood. It pulsed slowly, too slowly. She had lost too much. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't even know her species, but he remembered the emergency bio-kit on his belt. Inside was a healing agent, but only a small amount, enough for a minor injury, not enough for her wounds. He looked down at the auto-injector, then at her. Then he did something that would get him court-martialed on any ship. He pulled out his combat knife, drew it across his palm, and let his blood drip into the injector. The device warned him not to proceed. Human blood was not compatible, but he overrode it. He didn't care. He injected the mix into the alien girl's arm and waited. At first, nothing happened. Then her body began to glow faintly. Her wounds shimmered. Her breathing grew stronger. Kale didn't know it yet, but something ancient and powerful had just been awakened inside her, something her kind had long forgotten, and she would never forget what the human had just done for her. Kale leaned against the wall, his hand still bleeding from the cut he made. His breathing was shallow, his body screaming for rest, but he kept watching her. The alien girl's skin shimmered faintly where her wounds had been. Her chest rose and fell with more strength now. It was working. She stirred. Her fingers twitched. Her ears flicked once. Then slowly her eyes opened. Kyle expected fear or panic, maybe even an attack. Instead, she just looked at him, confused and weak. She tried to sit up but winced in pain. Kale moved closer and held her gently, helping her stay up without falling. "You're okay?" he said quietly. "You're safe." She didn't answer. She stared at him, eyes locked to his face. Her lips parted like she wanted to speak, but no words came out. She was still dazed, probably shocked her body was healing at all. Kale offered her a sip from his water pack. She hesitated, then accepted. Her hands trembled as she drank. He looked at her wounds. The bleeding had stopped. Some of the deeper cuts had closed entirely. Human blood had triggered something inside her, something no one could have expected. She looked down at her body. Her fingers traced the marks where wounds had once been. Then she noticed his hand, The bleeding from his palm hadn't stopped. She gently took his arm and lifted it toward her. Her touch was warm, but there was something strange in her grip, like energy or vibration. She held his hand, staring at the blood. Her eyes widened slightly. Kyle didn't know what she was thinking, but she looked almost afraid. Not of him, but of what had happened. He tried to pull his hand back, but she held it tighter. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said. "I just didn't want you to die." She finally spoke, her voice soft and shaky. "Why?" Cale blinked. That single word hit harder than any punch. Why? Why had he done it? Why had he risked his life, his blood, for someone he didn't even know? He had no answer. "I don't know," he admitted. "It just felt right." She looked down, silent for a moment. Then she let go of his hand, slowly. Her expression softened, not grateful, not surprised. Something deeper, something that didn't belong on a battlefield. Outside, the sounds of war had faded. Whatever fight had started, it was over now, either won or lost. Kyle didn't care. He just wanted to get out of there alive. And now he wasn't alone. He helped her to her feet. She stumbled, but he caught her. Her tail dragged behind her, heavy with dirt and blood. Her body was weak, but she didn't complain. She followed him step by step through the wreckage. As they moved, Cale noticed something strange. The ground beneath her feet seemed to respond to her. Small cracks sealed up. Dust lifted and danced around her. Symbols on the broken walls flickered, back to life. Wherever she passed, the ruins shimmered like they were waking up. Cale kept watching her from the corner of his eye. She wasn't just a soldier. She was something more. When they reached the edge of the chamber, she stopped. He turned to her. "What is it?" She looked up at the large stone arch above them. Strange glyphs lit up as her gaze moved across them. "This place, it's alive, now," she whispered. "Because of you." Kyle frowned. "What do you mean?" She turned to him, eyes glowing slightly. "My kind were forbidden to accept help from other species. It's a sacred law. But your blood, your choice, it broke something. Or maybe it fixed it." Cale didn't understand the meaning of her words, but he could see it in her eyes now. Whatever he had done, whatever rule he had unknowingly shattered, it had changed her world, and it had just begun. The broken path led them out of the chamber into a long corridor made of smooth black stone. The air was quiet now, but Kyle could still feel the weight of the war behind them. His legs were tired, but he kept going, guiding her step by step. She still moved slowly, but her balance was returning. Her eyes scanned everything, like she was seeing the world differently now. Cale noticed the glowing lines running along the walls. They pulsed softly as she passed. The same thing hadn't happened when he came through earlier. It was like the place recognized her now, but only after he had saved her. She spoke without looking at him. "My name is Lyra." He glanced at her. Surprised, she finally told him. "Cale," he replied. "Just a soldier." She nodded. "You shouldn't have done it." "I know," he said. "But I did." They kept walking. The floor was cracked in places and alien symbols were carved into the stone. Lyra kept touching them gently with her fingertips. The symbols responded to her like they had been asleep, and her touch woke them up. "Why were you here?" Cale finally asked. Lyra stopped near a broken column. Her voice was quiet. "I was a guardian. This outpost was sacred to my people, a temple of memory. When the humans attacked, I stayed behind. To protect what was left." Cale looked around. "This doesn't look like a temple anymore." "It's not," she said. "The war changed everything." They sat down to rest. Kyle handed her a ration bar and she took it, unsure how to eat it. He smiled and showed her, taking a bite himself. She copied him, chewing slowly. There was silence between them, but it wasn't awkward. It felt like they had both been carrying too much for too long, and now the weight was slowly lifting. Lyra looked at his injured hand. It was still bleeding. "Let me help you," she said softly. He held out his palm. She touched it gently, and something strange happened. The same glow that healed her now flowed through her fingers into him. It wasn't painful. It was warm, like sunlight on skin. The wound closed in seconds. Kale stared at his hand. "How did you do that?" Lyra pulled her hand back. "I don't know. I couldn't heal before. Your blood awakened something inside me. Something ancient. Lost." Kyle leaned back against the wall, unsure what to say. He had never heard of anything like this. Not in any mission report, not in any war briefing. "I think we're both in trouble," he said with a dry laugh. Lyra smiled for the first time. "I think you're right." Suddenly a sharp sound echoed down the corridor. Kale froze. Lyra's ears twitched. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Metal. They weren't alone. Kale pulled Lyra behind a broken pillar and peeked out. A tall, armored figure moved through the corridor. Its eyes glowed red. It was a battle drone, alien-made, but not from her species. Its armor was scorched, patched with tech that didn't belong. "Scavenger tech," Kyle whispered. "It's been hijacked." Lyra nodded. "Mercenaries. They come after the battles to take what's left." The drone scanned the corridor, searching. Kale knew it was armed. If it saw them, it would shoot without warning. He looked at Lyra. "Can you run?" She shook her head. "Not yet." Kale checked his belt. Just one plasma grenade left. He made a decision. "Stay here. Don't move." Lyra's eyes widened. "You'll die." "Not if I'm lucky." He stood, heart pounding, and stepped out into the corridor. The drone turned. Kale raised his arms. "Hey, looking for something?" The drone locked onto him, its weapon charging. Lyra reached for him instinctively, her hand glowing again, but it was already too late. Kyle threw the grenade. The grenade exploded in a flash of white heat. The force knocked Kale backward, sending him crashing into the wall. The sound was deafening. Smoke and sparks filled the corridor. The drone's body shattered into pieces, its metal frame flying apart like broken armor. Kale groaned as he slid to the ground. His ears rang and his chest burned, but he was alive. Lyra rushed to him. She knelt beside him, her fingers quickly checking his ribs and head. She whispered something in her own language, soft and fast. Then she placed both her hands on his chest. A glow pulsed between them. Kale's pain faded slowly. His lungs opened again, and he took a deep breath. Her energy was stronger this time, more focused. She didn't know how she was doing it, but it worked. He opened his eyes and gave her a weak smile. "Still not dead." Lyra didn't smile. Her eyes were wet. "You could have died. For me." Kyle sat up, still catching his breath. "We're not enemies anymore, remember?" She stared at him like he had said something she had never heard before. Kale glanced at the remains of the drone. Its core still flickered with energy. He crawled over to it and pulled out a small metal sphere. "Glowing faint green, what is that?" Lyra asked. "A locator beacon," Kyle said. "Someone sent that drone. And now they know we're here." Lyra's face hardened. "Then we don't have much time." She helped him stand. They moved quickly through the corridor, deeper into the structure. The walls began to change. Instead of ruins, they passed through cleaner halls. The glowing symbols were now fully awake. The air felt warmer, alive. Kyle noticed the shift. "This place, it's changing." Lyra nodded. "Because of you." He frowned. "No, because of us." They reached a wide chamber filled with mirrors, floating in the air. The mirrors didn't reflect their images. Instead, they showed scenes of different places, cities in ruins, temples lost in forests, alien worlds spinning under twin suns. Kyle walked toward one mirror. It showed Earth, a burning battlefield, human soldiers fighting in gray skies. He stepped back. "What is this place?" Lyra touched one of the mirrors and it vanished. Another took its place, showing a peaceful meadow full of white trees. This is the Hall of Memory, she said. It holds visions of the past and possible futures. Kyle looked around. Why are you bringing me here? Lyra walked to the center of the room and turned to him. Her hair flowed like flame behind her, and the mirrors reflected her from every side. Because your blood changed more than me, she said. It reconnected something between your kind and mine. Kale didn't understand. We were once part of the same alliance, she continued. Long ago, before your species even knew space travel, the bond was broken, the temple slept. Until you came. Kale took a slow step toward her. So what now? Lyra looked at him with something new in her expression. Not just gratitude, not just curiosity, a deeper kind of trust. Now you must see what they fear, why they tried to erase us, why your blood, your kindness, is the key. Before Kale could respond, the mirrors flickered. Red lights filled the chamber. A low hum vibrated through the walls. Someone found us, Lyra said. More drones? Kale asked. No, she whispered. Something worse. The floor beneath them started to shift. The room itself began to lower, sinking into the depths of the ancient structure. The mirrors shattered, one by one, vanishing into sparks. Kale grabbed Lyra's hand. She didn't pull away. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. The platform stopped deep below the surface. Kyle and Lyra stepped into a vast chamber unlike anything they had seen before. It was circular, with towering walls covered in ancient carvings. At the center stood a massive structure made of crystal and stone glowing with slow, steady pulses of light. Kale looked up. The ceiling stretched so high it vanished into darkness. What is this place? He asked. Lyra walked toward the structure slowly, her tail dragging behind her. The heart of the temple, the source of its power. Kale followed her, scanning the area. It was quiet. Too quiet. Suddenly the light in the chamber dimmed. A deep hum echoed from the walls. The carvings lit up, one by one, forming a ring around the room. Then something rose from the floor behind them. A giant machine shaped like a creature from a nightmare. It had 6 legs, red glowing eyes, and long cables trailing behind it like tentacles. Its body was a mix of scavenged tech and ancient metal. It looked like it didn't belong to any one species, just pieces of many. Kale grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her back. What is that? Lyra's eyes were locked on it. It's a harvester, the creature spoke in a broken mechanical voice. Unauthorized blood detected, purge initiated. Kale took out his last weapon, a small shock pistol almost useless against something this big. Lyra stepped in front of him. Her body started to glow again, brighter than before. Wait, Kale said. You're still recovering. But she didn't listen. She raised her hands. The lines on the floor lit up, connecting to her. Energy surged through her body, and the crystal structure behind her responded. The harvester charged. Lyra unleashed a wave of power, sending shockwaves through the air. The machine staggered but didn't fall. It roared, launching a barrage of electrified spikes. Kyle pulled her down behind a stone block just in time. They hit the ground hard. Kyle coughed. That didn't stop it. Lyra's hands trembled. It's stronger than I thought. It's feeding on the temple's energy. Kyle looked at her. Then we cut it off. He pointed to the crystal structure. That's what it's after, right? If we shut it down, maybe it loses its strength. Lyra hesitated. If we do that, the temple dies. All the memories, all the connection. Kale grabbed her shoulders. If we don't, we die. She closed her eyes. Then she nodded. They ran toward the center. The harvester roared behind them, smashing through the floor as it gave chase. Kale reached the crystal base and found a panel glowing with symbols. I don't know how to work this. Lyra joined him, her hands moving fast over the controls. She whispered something in her language, and the glow shifted. The harvester lunged forward. Kale turned and fired his pistol. It barely slowed the thing down. Lyra's voice grew louder. The ground began to shake. Almost there, she said. Kale stood in front of her, shielding her from the machine as it charged one last time. The moment the harvester struck, the entire chamber exploded with light. The power from the crystal surged upward, piercing the monster's body with pure energy. It screamed, a sharp, metallic shriek, as its limbs twisted and broke apart. Kale felt the blast knock him off his feet. Then, everything went quiet. He opened his eyes. Smoke curled from the harvester's broken frame. It lay motionless. Lyra was beside him, breathing hard, her skin still glowing faintly. "You did it," Kyle said. "We did it," she whispered. But as they looked around, they noticed the crystal's light dimming. The heart of the temple was dying, and with it something deep inside Lyra was fading too. The chamber grew darker with every passing second. The glowing lines along the walls flickered, struggling to stay alive. The air, once full of warmth and energy, felt heavy and cold now. Kale helped Lyra to her feet. She looked pale again, her balance unsteady. Whatever power had been flowing through her was leaving. Her hand reached toward the crystal heart, but it no longer responded to her touch. "It's over," she whispered. Kale held her arm to keep her steady. "You stopped the harvester. You saved both of us." She shook her head slowly. "I may have destroyed something sacred." Kale looked around. The walls of the temple still stood, but the light that made them feel alive was dying out. He didn't know what this place had truly meant to her people, but he could see it in her face. This loss wasn't just physical, it was spiritual. He guided her to a stone bench carved into the sidewall. She sat down, her head lowered. Her fingers brushed her tail, now dull and dragging. She looked smaller than before, more fragile. Kyle sat beside her. "I didn't come here to destroy anything," he said. "I just didn't want you to die." She turned to look at him. Her eyes were tired but still searching. "Why are you different from the others?" Kale shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe I'm not better, just not like them." She smiled faintly. "When you gave me your blood, it changed something, not just in me. In this place. It woke the temple, yes, but it also gave me memories I never lived. Visions. Of what? Of us," she said. "Not you and me, but our kinds. Together. Long ago." Kyle listened carefully. "There was peace once," she said. "Before the wars, before fear, the humans came in peace. We were curious about each other. We built things together. This temple was the last place that remembered that, until the fighting started." Kale felt a strange ache in his chest. He had never heard any of this before. No human record spoke of ancient contact. If it was true, then everything he had learned had been a lie, or carefully hidden. "Your blood carries echoes," Lyra continued. "Not just life, memory. When it mixed with mine, something awakened. I saw a council, old symbols, shared promises. Then I saw betrayal. Someone wanted the bond broken." "Who?" Kale asked. She looked up at him. "I don't know, but they feared what we could be together." Kale stood and walked toward the ruined core of the crystal. Its glow was almost gone, but a small pulse still beat inside it, like a dying star, refusing to collapse. "We can still save it," he said. Lyra looked up. "How?" "You said it responded to my blood. Maybe it still can." She stood weakly and reached his side. "It could kill you." He smiled. "It already nearly did once. Let's try again." He took out his blade and made a smaller cut this time. Lyra caught his hand quickly. "Not too much. You've already given more than anyone should." Nodded. They both placed their hands against the crystal. Blood and light mixed again. At first nothing happened. Then the walls pulsed. A hum rose through the floor, faint but steady. The broken mirrors above shimmered back into place. The carvings glowed like fresh fire. And Lyra gasped. Her body lit up once more, brighter than ever. Her eyes filled with tears. "It's coming back," she said. The temple is remembering. Kale stepped back, dizzy but steady. Lyra turned to him, her expression full of wonder and emotion. You're not just a soldier, Kyle. You're a key, a bridge, a living memory of something sacred. Kyle looked down at his blood-stained hand, unsure of what he had become. But deep inside the temple, something ancient was beginning to breathe again. The chamber glowed with new life. The once fading lines on the walls now pulsed with steady golden light. It was no longer just a ruin. The temple was awake. Kyle stepped back from the crystal, his body tired but standing, his blood still marked, the base of the core slowly being absorbed into its surface. The light from the crystal now shone brighter than ever, casting reflections across the room like a sunrise inside stone. Lyra stood beside him, her chest rising with every breath, her posture stronger. The golden glow that surrounded her was no longer flickering. It was steady, warm, alive. Kale watched her carefully. You're stronger now, she nodded slowly. Because of you. This temple, it's not just stone. It's connected to something greater. It stores more than memory. It stores energy, life, and truth. And now it sees you as part of that truth. Kale raised a brow. Me? I'm just a soldier. Lyra turned to face him fully. Not anymore. The symbols across the wall shifted again. This time they formed a circle, showing what looked like ancient figures, two species standing side by side. One clearly human, the other shaped like Lyra's kind. They held a shared artifact between them, a glowing disc. Kyle looked at the image. Is that real? Lyra reached out and touched the glowing symbol. The chamber responded. A new path opened in the floor, a spiral staircase going downward into darkness. This was sealed long ago, she said. Only those chosen by the temple could access it. Kale looked at her carefully. Are you saying I'm chosen? Lyra gave him a small smile. I don't think it was you alone. I think it was us. Together. Kale didn't answer right away. He stared at the dark staircase, unsure of what waited below. He had already survived more than he thought possible, and yet he felt like something bigger was still coming. They descended the stairs together. The air grew cooler. The stone was smooth and untouched by war. This part of the temple had been preserved, hidden from all destruction. At the bottom, they entered a round chamber. Floating in the center was a single object, a silver orb no larger than a human heart. It hovered silently, surrounded by rings of light that spun slowly. Kale stepped closer. What is it? Lyra's eyes widened. A core memory sphere. It holds not just history but law, knowledge that guided our ancient worlds. Kale looked at the orb. So it's a recorder? More than that, Lyra whispered. It's proof of peace, of the first human alliance. Kale slowly reached out. His fingers hovered just inches from the orb. It moved toward him, glowing brighter. The spinning rings stopped. A beam of light passed over his hand and chest, scanning him. Then a voice spoke. It wasn't mechanical. It was calm, old, deep. Human DNA confirmed. Ancient bloodline reconnected. Unity protocol unlocked. Lyra's mouth fell open. It's real. The orb began projecting a holographic scene. Kale turned to see two ancient leaders, one human, one of Lyra's kind, standing under a shared sky. They exchanged symbols of trust, blood mixed in ritual. Behind them stood thousands of both species. Kale watched in silence. They trusted each other, he said, but something tore them apart. Lyra nodded, and someone erased it, buried it, so no one would ever know we were once one. Kale's jaw tightened. Who would do that? The ones who profit from war, she said softly. From fear. From keeping us divided. Kyle stepped away from the orb. Then we have to show the truth. To everyone. Lyra nodded slowly. But we must survive first. Because they will come to stop us. Kale looked back up the stairs, knowing the silence above wouldn't last, and he knew they were no longer just survivors. They were witnesses to something that could change the entire galaxy. The core memory orb hovered silently in the middle of the chamber, still glowing with ancient light. Kyle and Lyra stood in front of it, the weight of history pressing down on their shoulders. The truth was no longer hidden. It had returned to the surface. Now, they had to decide what to do with it. Lyra turned to Kale, her voice calm but firm. If we carry this orb out of the temple, we'll become targets. There are forces who will do anything to stop us. Kale nodded. Let them try. The galaxy deserves to know the truth. Lyra placed her hands over the orb. It responded instantly, shrinking down to the size of a small stone and floating into a protective shell. She handed it to Kale. You carry it. The temple chose you. Kale took it carefully. As soon as it touched his palm, a faint pulse went through his arm. He didn't feel pain, only warmth, like the temple itself was trusting him. Suddenly, the ground shook. Kyle spun around. What now? Lyra raised her head, ears twitching. They've arrived. A low, deep humming filled the air. Lights flickered along the stairs above. Heavy steps echoed, followed by a robotic voice. Unauthorized breach confirmed. Prepare for containment. Kale placed the orb in a pouch on his chest. Looks like they didn't waste time. Lyra pulled him toward a hidden path behind the chamber, one only she could see. There's another way out. A secret passage once used by the temple's builders. They moved fast. The air grew tighter, the corridor narrower. Behind them, the sounds of approaching machines got louder. Weapons charged. Orders were shouted in unknown alien languages. Kyle gritted his teeth. We're not gonna outrun them. Lyra stopped at a sealed door. She placed her hand against it. An ancient light ran across the stone like lightning. It opened slowly, revealing a spiral ramp leading upward. We don't need to outrun them. Just outlast them. They climbed quickly. Kale breathing hard, his body sore from earlier fights, but he didn't stop. The orb pressed against his chest, reminding him why he had to keep moving. Lyra looked over her shoulder. This passage leads to the surface. Once we reach it, we'll be above the battlefield. Kale narrowed his eyes. And after that? She hesitated. There's someone who still remembers the old ways. A keeper. She lives in the Sky Islands beyond the mountains. If we can reach her, she can broadcast the orb's memory across the network of ancient worlds. Kale gave a short breath. Then let's find her. They emerged at the surface just as the sun began to rise over the scorched horizon. The sky was tinted with soft pink and orange, a strange beauty above the ruins. Smoke still lingered in the air and the ground was cracked from the fighting. In the distance, Kyle could see ships descending. Black, sharp crafts marked with unfamiliar symbols. They're not from my side, he muttered. Lyra stepped beside him. They're mercenaries, paid by those who want the truth buried. Kyle pulled out a flare from his belt and fired it into the sky. Then we better move before they find us. Just then, a deep roar echoed overhead. Kyle looked up. A sleek gray transport ship broke through the clouds and descended fast. Its engines created waves of dust and wind. A panel opened on the side, revealing a tall figure waving from inside. Lyra's eyes widened. That's one of ours. Kale grabbed her hand and ran. They jumped over broken rocks and climbed onto the platform as it lifted from the ground. Blaster fire erupted behind them. The mercenaries had arrived. Kale pulled Lyra into the safety of the ship just as the doors closed. Inside, an old alien woman with silver markings on her skin looked at them. Her eyes focused on Kale, then the orb. It's true, she whispered. The past lives again. Kyle met her gaze. Now let's show the galaxy. The transport ship soared above the clouds, flying low over cracked mountains and wide valleys. Kyle sat near the window, holding the sealed orb tightly against his chest. Every second that passed felt heavier. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was carrying proof that could change everything. Lyra sat across from him. Her posture was straight, but her tail twitched with nerves. She hadn't spoken much since they took off. Her eyes kept scanning the skies, watching for threats. The older alien woman, the one who had saved them, stood near the ship's console. Her name was Ithra. She was tall and regal, her skin marked with glowing silver lines that shimmered as she moved. She wore robes made of deep blue fabric, unlike anything Kale had seen on the battlefield. Ithra turned toward them. "You don't understand what you carry," she said to Kale. "I know it's important," Kale replied. She walked closer. "That orb doesn't just hold memory, it holds authority. The seal of the ancient alliance. If activated, it would override any council, any military, any law. It was created for unity. It cannot be faked or copied." Kyle blinked. "Then, why hide it? Why bury it?" "Because unity is dangerous to those who profit from division," Ithra said. "They erase the past to control the future. But the temple woke because of your blood. It responded to you." Lyra spoke softly. "He gave it to me freely, without knowing who I was. That's why the temple trusted him." Ithra studied Kale for a long moment, then nodded. "We must reach the sky altar. Once the orb is placed there, it will send the truth across the network of forgotten worlds. But they will try to stop us." As if on cue, the ship's warning alarms began to flash. A bright red light pulsed across the cabin. Ithra rushed to the console and scanned the display. "They've found us," she said. "2 intercept crafts. Modified for pursuit, we can't outrun them." Kale stood. "Then we fight." Ithra's eyes narrowed. "No, you must survive. That orb must reach the altar." Lyra stepped forward. "What are you saying?" Ithra opened a hidden compartment on the wall and revealed a small escape pod, only big enough for 2. She turned to them. "You'll go in this. I'll draw them away." Kyle shook his head. "You'll die." Ithra smiled. "I have already lived long enough. My time was waiting for this moment. Let me give it meaning." Lyra stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "You were my teacher." Ithra placed a hand gently on her cheek. "Now you become the voice of our past, and the one who protects its future." She turned to Kale. "And you are the reminder that kindness is more powerful than any weapon." Kale didn't know what to say. He had come here thinking he was just another soldier, just one survivor among many. Now he was something more, and he didn't know if he deserved it. Ithra guided them into the pod. It was tight, but the orb fit safely between them. She closed the hatch and pressed the launch sequence. The last thing Kale saw through the small window was Ithra returning to the ship's controls, facing the enemy crafts without fear. Then the pod launched. They shot through the clouds, spinning through the sky toward the distant peaks. Below them, the sky altar stood tall on the highest point, an ancient spire carved from crystal and stone. Kale held Lyra's hand. Neither of them spoke. They didn't have to. The truth was almost ready to be revealed, and whatever came next, they would face it together. The escape pod struck the mountain slope hard, bouncing twice before sliding into a ridge of snow and stone. The emergency hatch opened with a hiss, and Kyle crawled out first, pulling Lyra and the orb behind him. The air was thin and cold. Wind howled across the sharp cliffs. Far below, valleys stretched into clouds, but above them stood the sky altar, tall, ancient, untouched. Kyle helped Lyra to her feet. Her breathing was shaky, but her legs held strong. Together they began the final climb. Every step was slow. The wind pushed against them like a wall. But the path was clear, carved by hands long gone, waiting for someone to return. As they reached the top, the altar revealed itself. A wide, circular platform stood open to the sky, surrounded by pillars, etched with the same glowing script from the temple. In the center, a pedestal waited. Lyra stepped forward first, her hand guiding Kyle to the right position. She looked at him. "This is it." Kyle nodded. He reached into his pouch and carefully removed the orb. It glowed softly, pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. He placed it onto the pedestal. The moment it touched the stone, light exploded upward into the sky, forming a beam that pierced the clouds. Symbols danced in the air above them, spinning and shifting. Then one by one, ancient holograms appeared, memories from the past, the alliance, the shared oath, the betrayal. Across the stars, on hidden satellites, buried stations, and sleeping worlds, the signal awakened. The truth was no longer a secret. Lyra watched, tears flowing silently. They'll see. Everyone will see. Kyle stood beside her, hand resting on the hilt of his empty holster. Do you think they'll believe it? They won't have a choice, she said. It's in their blood now, just like mine. Suddenly, a soft chime rang through the altar. A floating screen formed above the pedestal showing ships, dozens of them. Some were human. Others were from alien fleets Kale had only seen in briefings. They were watching, and someone began to speak. It was a human voice, female, calm, from a command ship orbiting above. This is Commander Alina of the Terran Union. We have received the transmission, confirming historical alliance data. Then another voice joined, a deep, rumbling tone. This is High Keeper Drell of the Cathari Order. The memory is true. We were once brothers. More voices followed, from species Kale had never met, all confirming the truth. Lyra's body trembled. We did it. Kyle looked at her, his expression serious. Now comes the hard part. What's that? Living in peace. Lyra smiled softly. We'll learn. Suddenly, a shuttle descended, toward the altar, sent by one of the observing fleets. It slowed, then landed gently near them. The doors opened, revealing an envoy, unarmed, peaceful, waiting. Kale looked down at his blood-stained hand. Funny, he said. All this started because I couldn't let you die. Lyra stepped closer, taking his hand in hers. And I will spend the rest of my life repaying that choice. Kale looked at her, the cold wind pushing through their hair. For the first time since the war began, he felt still. As they stepped toward the shuttle, surrounded by light and sky, Kale realized something he hadn't before. The war was not his greatest battle. His greatest battle was choosing kindness in a moment of fear and having it change the galaxy. And Lyra knew that as long as she breathed, she would guard that truth with everything she had. Not because she owed him, but because she loved him. And now, the galaxy would remember.